So we first have Harry Brignull, I always hope I pronounce your names correctly, founder of darkpatterns.org, where basically he is collecting and compiling examples of dark patterns. So the floor is yours.
So hi everyone, my name's Harry. About 11 years ago I coined the term dark patterns and I started a campaign against them on darkpatterns.org, which is a website that I still run. If my slides aren't currently being presented, can someone put them up please? Today digital software design is mainly the science of persuasion and control. Gone are the days of designing things to look nice. Designers are teamed up with psychologists who advise about conversion techniques and with data scientists who analyse track data about user behaviour and calculate statistics to show which designs deliver the most business value. It's important to understand that the same methodology can be used to help or harm consumers. It depends on the intent of the business owner. Next slide, please. So here's an example from my own work, which I think you'll agree is honest and helpful. Which one do you think would be most effective at getting people to sign in and look at their pension balance for the first time? Take a look at each design just for a moment, at each of these emails, and make a guess for yourself. Next slide, please. In a recent A/B test, we found that the one on the right was more persuasive. We run a lot of little tests like this to work out how best to help people pay attention to their pensions. But if, instead of helping users, you want to trick and deceive them, you use the same sort of methodology. You set a goal, you track user behavior, you run statistics, you select the winner, and you keep doing that over and over again for every aspect of your service. Let me show you some examples. Next slide. So this is from January 2021. A consumer complained that this page coerced them into signing up for a premium subscription. And in fact, it looks like the only thing you can do from this page is click the big green button that says Start 30-day free trial, unless you scroll down slightly. Next slide, please. Because hidden from view, there is a tiny grey link labelled Start Without Business Class. This is called visual interference. It's an easy trick. If you don't want people to see some text, you make it hard to see. The outcome here is that lots of people are going to end up taking a free trial and then rolling onto a monthly subscription while completely unaware that there was a free plan that they could have chosen. In other words, this design is deceptive and the outcome of harm to some users will be financial loss from the unwanted subscription. Next slide, please. Not all dark patterns are visual in nature. Some make things hard for users by adding friction, and this is called obstruction. It's a very common technique with newspaper subscriptions. The consumer finds it very easy to subscribe, it just takes a few seconds. But if they want to cancel, they have to call a phone line or use live chat, speak to a rep who then tries to talk them out of it and generally makes it unnecessarily hard for them to cancel. Some users will have to wait until they have enough spare time to go through the cancellation process, and maybe they have to wait till the weekend, at which point maybe they've paid for another month. So you can see this design is deceptive. The outcome of harm for the consumer is wasted time, and their time is very valuable. And for some people, they'll also have the financial loss for a subscription that they didn't want. Next slide, please. Some companies will mix together different types of dark patterns to create an effect that's greater than the sum of the parts. This consumer was very angry when they found out they'd somehow signed up for an annual contract with Adobe, which they thought was just monthly, and now Adobe wanted to charge them 50% of the remaining annual balance in order to cancel. So how much can a consumer be blamed here for not paying attention? Next slide. The Adobe payment page has some very big writing on it. It says, enjoy your 7-day free trial. Next slide. It has some smaller writing too. For example, due now, £0. Next slide. But there's some smaller writing still. It says annual plan paid monthly. What does that actually mean? It doesn't say. Next slide. The user can only work this out if they click the tiny text that says subscription and cancellation terms down here that's circled in red. This takes, next slide please. This takes them to a pop-up with small grey writing that you can see here. Next slide. And if they scroll down, they'll find information that says in difficult legal language that they're about to enter an annual contract, and if they want to cancel, they have to pay 50% of the remaining balance. I think you'll agree the information is deceptively hidden away and buried. Many consumers will enter the 7-day free trial without realizing they're being tied into a binding contract that will lead to substantial financial loss if they want to cancel before the year is out. Next slide. So here you can see an apology from Adobe about this. Adobe is a company full of smart people, so it's reasonable to ask, why have they been doing this? I think we can assume that they either believe this practice is entirely permitted, or they believe that the compliance risk is just worth taking, i.e. the chance of getting fined is acceptable, and if they do get fined, the cost is acceptable in comparison to the profit that the practice will bring. Even though it's easy to feel angry with companies who use these techniques or disappointed in them, it's also important to sympathise with them as well. These are people who are doing their best to run a successful business. When laws and regulations are ambiguous, and when there isn't any clear enforcement, a decision has to be made. Companies are faced with myriads of regulations and laws, and many of them are confusing and ambiguous. A company that decides to be excessively compliant and go beyond the letter of the law can disadvantage themselves in the marketplace and leave themselves open to being dominated by a less ethical competitor. So, when you see companies using dark patterns, they are being rational actors in the marketplace. And this is what regulation and enforcement needs to address, to tip the balance of their risk assessments towards not engaging in these practices. New laws need to be clear, strict and decisive, or we'll be stuck with dark patterns for a long, long time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much. I think it is really important for us. I guess we all have this daily experience of dark patterns to have an overview, and you did a great overview on your collection on dark patterns, on examples, what it really means in practice. So thank you very much for that.